Barak Yahuwah Mashpaka. Barak Yahuwah.
Barak Yahuwah.
Barak Yahuwah. For the past 2 weeks or so, Yahuwah has placed us on a journey. He has called us back to the ancient path. He's not only calling this gathering and this group back to the ancient paths, but he's calling the whole earth in this season back to the ancient path. He's calling the whole earth back to repentance. Repentance from crime. Back to the ancient path of Torah. And so for the past 2 weeks or so, he's had us on this journey, on this incredible journey, and journeying back to the ancient path. A couple of Shabbats ago, he spoke to us and he showed us exactly what is the ancient path. He showed us that the ancient path, indeed the word ancient, is the Abraite word Alahym. Alahym. It means eternity. It means forever. It is to say beyond the vanishing point, to the point to where it can no longer be perceived by human thought. And so he gave us the understanding that only he is ancient, as he is the ancient of days. Only he is eternal. He and he alone is eternal. We understand he showed us that the ancient path is Torah. He is Torah. Torah is eternal. Indeed, as it is written, in the beginning was the Torah. And the Torah was with Alahym, and the Torah was Alahym. Everything that came to be through Torah. Came to be through Torah. So he has opened up our eyes and our understanding to the fact that Torah indeed is the ancient path. That Torah indeed is the way and the truth and the life. Torah is the way and the truth and the life. We understand that the living Torah became flesh and declared these very same words, that I am the way, the truth, and the life. But what he was proclaiming to those who had ears to hear and eyes to see was that indeed that Torah is the way and the truth and the life. And so he opened up our understanding to that the ancient path is Torah. The ancient path is the Ancient of Days. Is the Ancient of Days. It is a very narrow path. It is a narrow path, one that is not broadly traveled, that is not heavily traveled. Only a few are traveling this road. Indeed, there is a great awakening going on. And many people are aspiring to obey Torah and are aspiring to walk the ancient path. But they are attempting to walk the ancient path without having oil in their lamps. Without having any oil in their lamps. In other words, without the assistance of the Ruach HaKadosh. If I could get everyone to mute your mics, Ms. Parker, there's a lot of feedback. There's a lot of feedback. Indeed, there are many who are trying to or attempting to walk this ancient path without having any oil in their lamps, without having the Ruach HaKadosh, the living Torah, dwelling inside of them, having had the Torah written upon their hearts, having the oil which fuels the light of Torah, which in turn helps us to obey Torah in Ruach and in truth, and which in turn helps us to walk the ancient path in Ruach and in truth. And so there are very few on this path. Very few on this path. In the first teaching, a couple of Shabbats ago, not only did he establish the ancient path, but then he gave us an example of how to walk the ancient path in the person of Canuk. The next fourth day, he gave us the example of how to walk the ancient path by the example of Methuselah and Noach. And now he is giving us the example of how to walk the ancient path. What does it look like? What does it tangibly look like to walk the ancient path through the example of Abraham? through the example of Abraham. And as it was spoken on the Shabbat, this is going to be very extensive. This is going to be very extensive. Indeed, as I was having a conversation with my Aisha, and I spoke the same thing to Brother Malak, that this ancient path, walking this ancient path, this could very well take us all the way up to Sukkot, because it's just that important. It's just that important that we get this. It's just that important that we understand the ancient path, and that we understand what it means and what it looks like to walk the ancient path, because indeed, this is the way to everlasting life. There is only one way. There is only one path, and it is very narrow. It is very narrow. And so it is imperative that we understand this, that we understand how to walk the ancient path. And so tonight, this is going to be part 6 for those who are watching, who are going to watch this on YouTube later on. This is going to be part 6. And if you have not watched the first 5 teachings of this, for those of you who are on YouTube, stop this video right now and go back and watch the first 5, because there are some things there that I'm not mentioning here that you're going to miss if you don't go back and watch them. So I encourage you. This is too important. This is too important. This ancient path is too important for you to miss any of the first 5. It is too important. Your salvation is at stake. Your very soul is at stake. So it's very important that you go back and watch the first 5. So in continuing this teaching, looking at our father Abraham, again, this is going to be part 6. Turn Mashpaka to the 13th chapter of the book of Yashar. We stopped at chapter 12. Tonight we're going to look at chapter 13. We're going to begin in chapter 13, and we'll see how far Yahuwah allows us to go. We'll see how far Yahuwah allows us to go. So we're going to start in the 13th chapter of the book of Yashar. Yashar, commonly called Jasher. Commonly called Jasher. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. Beginning here at verse 1. And we're picking up now where Abraham has convinced his father Torah to leave the reign of Namrud. He convinced him that he could not trust Namrud, and that Namrud would kill him just as quickly as he wanted to kill him. And so in chapter 12, towards the end, he finally convinces his father, not only, he didn't convince him of anything, Yahuwah convinced his father through him, but Yahuwah through Abram, not only convinced his father to leave Babal, but he also showed him and convinced him that the ancient path was the only path. He convinced him that the ancient path was the only path. And now here in Jasher chapter 13, we find Torah leaving Babal with his son Abram and his grandson Lut. So beginning now in verse 1 of chapter 13, we read, And Torah took his son Abram and his grandson Lut, the son of Haran, and Sharai, his daughter-in-law, the woman of his son Abram, and all the souls of his household, and went with them from Kasdiim to go to the land of Canaan, And when they came as far as the land of Haran, they remained there, for it was exceedingly good land for pasture, and of sufficient extent for those who accompanied them. And the people of the land of Haran saw that Abram was good and upright with Alahym. Now in chapter 5, we began looking at some characteristics that were requisite of someone who was walking the ancient path. If you're taking notes, we just read another characteristic. Good and upright with Alahym. Someone who is walking the ancient path is good and upright with Alahym. Not just in front of people, but also behind closed doors in secret. The one who is walking the ancient path with Yahuwah is good and upright with him. This is another staple. This is another characteristic. And we're going to understand what it means as we go on reading. We're going to understand what exactly does it mean to be good and upright with Alahym. He's going to show us. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And the people of the land of Haran saw that Abram was good and upright with Alahym. And men. Here it is. Here it is. So this is a staple. This is a characteristic of someone walking the ancient path. He is good and upright with Alahym and with men. And with men. He or she is good and upright with Alahym and with men. And that Yahuwah Elohim was with him. Was with him. Again, we talked about this on the Shabbat. If you are walking the ancient path and truly walking the ancient path, then what? Then the favor of Yahuwah rests upon you. Yahuwah is with you. He is with you wherever you go. This is another characteristic for someone who is truly walking the ancient path. For someone who is truly walking the ancient path. Well, you don't believe me. You don't believe me. Somebody turn real quickly. Thank you, Abba, for giving me this precept. Somebody turn really quickly to Marcus, the 16th chapter, and read the last two verses of Mark, the 16th chapter. Someone quickly turn there and read Mark, the 16th chapter, and read the last two verses of the 16th chapter. Someone read that for me. I'm going to pause right here until someone reads that. Thank you, Abba. Marcus, the 16th chapter, read the last two verses.
So then after Adonai had spoken unto them, he was received up into heaven and sat on the right hand of Yah. And they went forth and preached everywhere. Yahuwah working with them.
What he did what?
Yahuwah working with them.
I need you to say it one more time. I don't know if they heard you.
Yahuwah working with them.
Barak Yahuwah.
And confirming the word with signs following.
And confirming the words with signs following. Indeed. Amen. Barak Yahuwah. If you are truly walking the ancient path, and you better believe that they walk the ancient path. All of his taught ones, all of his Talmudim, they walk the ancient path. And the other thing that they all had in common who walked the ancient path is that the Ruach of Yahuwah rests upon them. Rests upon them. And so if we are truly walking the ancient path, as it says here, and the people of the land of Haran saw that Abram was good and upright. So were they. So were they. And so that and we saw this example also in Yahushua the HaMashiach, who also walked the ancient path. He had to. He's the Ancient of Days. With Alahym and men. And that Yahuwah Elohim was with him. Was with him. If he is not with you, if he's not showing you that he is with you and showing men that he is with you, you're not on the ancient path. You're not on the narrow path. You're on that broad path. You're on that broad path. These are not my words. These are his words. He just read a precept. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at me. Get mad at Yahuwah. She just read a precept out of the mouth of two or more witnesses. Let every matter be established. So a precept from the Bari Kadashah was just given. And some of the people of the land of Haran came and joined Abram. Why did they come and join him? Because they could see that he was good and upright with Alahym and with men. And they could see that Yahuwah was with him. Indeed, we find in, I believe it's Zechariah, I believe it's around the 8th chapter, where it says there's going to come a time when 10 men from every nation is going to hold on to the garment of a Yehudi man. And they're going to say, let us go with you. Why? Because we've heard that Yahuwah is with you. We've heard that Yahuwah is with you. Indeed, if we're walking the ancient path, people are going to cling to us. They're going to want to walk with us. Because why? Because Yahuwah, not only is Yahuwah with us, but we are good and upright with Yahuwah forgive me, Abba, with Yahuwah and with men. And with men. And some of the people of the land of Haran came and joined Abram. And he taught them the instruction of Yahuwah and his ways. Here's another characteristic. This is what is expected of us. When they join themselves to us, because they can see that we are good and upright with Alahym and men, and that Yahuwah is with us, then we are to teach them the instruction of Yahuwah. We are to teach them Torah. We are to teach them the ancient paths. We are to teach them the ancient path. Do you not understand what it means that we are the light of the world? Do you not understand that what it means that we are the light of the world? Has it not been written? Has it not been spoken via the lips of the prophet of the Nabi Ishayahu that we have been given as a light to the Gentiles? We have been given as living Torahs to the Gentiles to do what? To teach them the instruction of Yahuwah and his ways. To teach them Torah. To teach them the ancient path. But we must first be walking the ancient paths ourselves like Abram was. Like Abram was taught by his righteous fathers, Ruach and Shem and Abba. We must first be taught like he was taught. And we must first be wrapped up in the instruction of Yahuwah, like Kanuk was, and like Methuselah was, and like Nuach was, rather, in order before we can go to the nations and teach them the Torah. We also must have the bright nature of Yahuwah, like our ancient ancestors had. We must have his bright nature, and this is the very thing that he is preparing us for. This is why, for those who have the understanding to understand, this is why he's called us back to the ancient path. He has called us to a closer walk with him. Why? So that that word can continue to wash us. So that then he can pour out that bright nature upon us. So that then we can go to the nations and they can see that Yahuwah is with us. So that they can see that Yahuwah is with us through accompanying signs and wonders. Indeed, this is proof that he's with us. Through accompanying signs and wonders, so that they will attach themselves to the true people of Yahuwah who are walking the ancient path, so that then we can teach them the instruction of Yahuwah, the Torah. We can teach them the ancient path, the ancient path. We can teach them the ancient path so that they too will find rest for their souls, for their beings. And these men remained with Abram in his house, and they adhered to him. And they adhered to him. Indeed, if they can see we're walking with Yahuwah, if they can see that we're actually walking with Yahuwah, they will adhere. They will adhere. Provided that Yahuwah draws them. Provided that Yahuwah draws them. We see an example of this with our ancestors, that irrespective of the signs and wonders that were done in their presence through his servant Masha, that they still rejected him. They still rejected him because he is a discerner of hearts and the intentions of men. And so they still rejected him. And so even through his servants, they must be drawn. They must be drawn. Even through his servants, they must be drawn. They must be drawn. And Yahuwah must draw them. He must draw them. He must draw them. And because if he doesn't draw them, then what is being spoken, they're not going to bear witness of. They're not going to bear witness to it. He must draw them. This is why when Yahuwah sends his servants to proclaim, those who know Yahuwah, they know his servants. And they receive the words from his servants. Those who do not know Yahuwah, they reject his servants because they do not know Yahuwah and they do not recognize the words that are coming from the mouths of his servants. And now, therefore, if you will hearken to my voice and guard my commandments, my statutes, and my Torah. Let me go back up to verse 3. And Abram remained in the land 3 years. And at the expiration of 3 years, Yahuwah appeared to Abram and said to him, I am Yahuwah, who brought you forth from Ur Kasdiim, and delivered you from the hands of all your enemies. Here's another characteristic that we cannot ignore. If you are walking the ancient path, if you are walking in him, if you're walking in the Ancient of Days, then that means that you know him, and that means that he speaks to you, and that means that he is going to make himself known to you. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. If he is not making himself known to you, perhaps you're on the wrong path. If you're on the ancient path, he is going to make himself known to you. And the closer you walk in him, the more he is going to make himself known to you. Verse 4. And now, therefore, if you will listen here. And now, therefore, if you will hearken to my voice and guard my commandments, my statutes, and my Torah. And my Torah. In other words, let's translate this. Let's translate this really, really simply. In other words, if you will hearken to my voice and walk the ancient path, because this is what he's telling him. If you will hearken to my voice and walk the ancient path, listen, then will I cause your enemies to fall before you. You don't believe it? If you don't believe it, you haven't read the book. You haven't read the book. Because as long as we are walking the ancient path, here's another characteristic right here. As long as we are walking the ancient path, guess what? He will fight our battles. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. He will go before us. He will send a hornet before us. And he will go before us as our banner, as Yahuwah Nasi. And he will fight for us as Yahuwah Shabahu, as master of armies of Shamayim. If we would merely humble ourselves and submit and obey and walk the ancient path. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. Then will I cause your enemies to fall before you. Here's another characteristic of walking the ancient path. He will cause our enemies to fall before us. Did he not tell Yahusha, commonly called Joshua, that no man was going to be able to stand before him all his days? He told him to not fear. Only do not fear, be bold and courageous, and do not transgress the words from his servant Masha. And that no man was going to be able to stand before him all his days. He said it. It's in the book. It's in the text. It's in the text. And you better believe that Yahusha, commonly called Joshua, walked the ancient path. But he not only walked the ancient path, but he walked the ancient path in Ruach, in truth, because the Ruach of Yahuwah rested upon him. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Did not Masha lay his hands upon him? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. He had the Ruach of Yahuwah on him. Indeed, if you read the book, if you read the text, he spent more time in the presence and the face of Yahuwah than Masha did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Read the book. It's there. It's there. Then will I cause your enemies to fall before you, and I will multiply your seed like the kukabim of Shamayim. Now here is a specific promise that he gave to Abram, that he will multiply his seed like the stars of Shamayim. But now let's make this more personal. Let's make this more personal. It reads in Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, that if we do what? If we walk the ancient path, what's going to happen? Not one woman amongst us was going to be barren. It said it. Go read it yourself. I'll stop if you want to go read it. It says it. It's in the book. It says that not one of our women was going to be barren. That's what it said. It says this. Yes, it does. For those who walk the ancient path. So here is another characteristic. Here's another characteristic. If you're walking the ancient path, if you're walking the ancient path, there ought to be some visible signs of it. There ought to be some visible signs. Yes, it should. Yes, it should. And I will multiply your seeds like the stars of Shamayim, and I will send my barakah upon all the works of your hands. Here's another characteristic of someone walking the ancient path. He says here that I'm going to send my barakah upon all the works of your hands. It says it. Yes, it does. Even in Deuteronomy 28 and all through the book, it says the same thing. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. If you would only walk the ancient path, I will send my barakah upon all the works of your hands. Now, for those of you on YouTube who may be questioning and asking, well, what about all those false barakah that Christians claim to have? Well, listen. Hashatan, he gives gifts. Yes, he does. In the 4th chapter of Luke, in the 4th chapter of Matthew, he says that, look, when he took Yahusha up to that high mountain and showed him all the reigns of the Arats, he said, all this I will give to you because it has been given to me to give to you. It is with my power to give to you. All of this I will give to you if you bow down and worship me. Now we know that Christians do not follow the ancient path. They do not follow the ancient path. They teach against following the ancient path. They are lawless. They follow the lawless one. And guess what? The lawless one gives them gifts. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. The text declares that if we follow the ancient path, which is Torah, then he will send his barakah upon all the works of our hands. What else does it say? And you shall lack nothing. And you shall lack nothing. Does it not say that those who trust in Yahuwah will not lack any good thing? It says that. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What is it? The question is what does it mean to trust in Yahuwah? Well, trust, the Abarit word for trust is what? It's amunah. It means belief. And so the implication is, if you trust and if you believe the word, then you will obey the word. Then you will walk the ancient path. If you trust that this word is true and that it is coming from the mouth of Yahuwah, that you will trust. If you trust it, you will walk in it, and thus you will lack nothing. You will lack no good thing. This is another characteristic. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Verse 5. Arise now, take your woman and all belonging to you, and go to the land of Canaan, and remain there. And I will there be unto you for an Alahym, and I will barak you. And I will barak you. This is another characteristic. Does he not say that I will barak those who barak you and curse those who curse you? It says it. Yes, it does. But it comes with stipulations. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. We must walk the ancient path in order for him to barak those who barak us and curse those who curse us. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And Abram rose. Listen, here's another characteristic. And Abram rose and took his woman. Another characteristic is what? Obedience. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. This is another characteristic of someone walking the ancient path. Obedience. Obedience unto death. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Is this not what the Hamashiach showed us? Who walked the ancient path because he is the ancient of days? He was what? He was obedient unto death. Yes, he was. Yes, he was. So was Abram. Abram was obedient unto death. As we get further in this teaching, you're going to understand this. He was obedient unto death. This is another characteristic. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And so the one who is not obedient, the one who is not walking the ancient path, and neither turning to the right or to the left, being in obedience to the word, being obedience to the Torah, to the ancient path, this one is not on the ancient path. If you're on the ancient path, then you have the characteristic of obedience. Of obedience. Indeed, obedience is synonymous with the ancient path. It is synonymous with the ancient path. You can't be on the ancient path without obedience because the ancient path is Torah. And in order to be on the ancient path, you have to be in submission and obedience to Torah. So another characteristic is obedience. And Abram rose and took his woman and all belonging to him. And he went to the land of Canaan as Yahuwah had told him. As Yahuwah had told him. Again, obedience is another characteristic. And you know what? As we're on this ancient path and it gets narrower and narrower, you know what? He's going to prove you. He's going to test us. Why? In order to know what's in our heart. In order to know if we will obey him. And to what? And to teach us that man does not live by bread alone, but by what? But by every word that proceeds from the mouth of Yahuwah. And so he went to the land of Canaan as Yahuwah had told him. This is another characteristic, obedience. And Abram was 50 years old when he went from Haran. And Abram came to the land of Canaan and dwelt in the midst of the city. And he there pitched his tent amongst the children of Canaan, inhabitants of the land. And Yahuwah appeared to Abram. And Yahuwah appeared to Abram when he came to the land of Canaan. Indeed, I told you, if you walk in the path, if you walk in the ancient path, Yahuwah is going to make himself known to you. Yes, he is. Yes, he is. Either through dreams or visions, or through speaking to you, or appearing to you. He is going to make himself known to you if you walk in the ancient path. And Yahuwah appeared to Abram when he came to the land of Canaan and said to him, this is the land which I gave unto you and to your seed after you forever. And I will make your seed like the stars, like the Kukabim of Shamayim. And I will give unto your seed for an inheritance all the lands which you see. Now, if you're walking the ancient path, guess what? You are seed of Abraham, because he too walked the ancient path. But you cannot, I repeat, you cannot walk the ancient path without operating in the same Ruach that Abram operated in. You can't. It's impossible. The flesh cannot do it. The flesh does not want to do it. The flesh is going to turn as soon as it's tested. It doesn't want to keep it. It cannot keep it. It cannot please Yahuwah. And so, if we are walking this ancient path in Ruach and in truth, can everybody mute your mics, Mishpaka? Mute your mics, please. Make sure your mics are muted. And so if we are indeed walking this ancient path, what does that mean? Under the same, in the same Ruach that Abram operated in, that also means that we have an inheritance. That means we have an inheritance to look forward to. We have an inheritance to look forward to. Verse 8. And Abram built an altar in the place where Alahym had spoken to him. And Abraham there called upon the name of Yahuwah. Here's another characteristic. There's two characteristics in this verse, verse 8. One is that those who are walking the ancient path are what? Are true worshipers. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They are true worshipers. They worship Alahym in Ruach and in truth. They worship Alahym in Ruach and in truth. And irrespective of all of the different names that are proliferating the earth during this season, those who are truly walking the ancient path, you can call me a sacred name all you want or whatever. You can label me however you want. But you got to answer to Yahuwah. Yes, that's his name. That is his name. He has revealed his name to us. He has revealed his name to us. And his name is Yahuwah. And so those who are truly walking the ancient path, they do what? They call upon the name of Yahuwah. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. The ones who are truly walking the ancient path call upon the name of the Ancient of Days. This ancient name, this eternal name, the name of Yahuwah, the all-existent one. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Abram called upon the name of Yahuwah. So do we. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. So here is another characteristic. Here is another characteristic. Barak Yahuwah. Verse 9. At that time, at the end of 3 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, in that year Noach died, which was the 58th year of the life of Abram. And all the days that Noach lived were 950 years, and he died. And Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, he, his woman, and all belonging to him, and all those that accompanied him, together with those that joined him from the people of the land. But Nachor, Abram's brother, and Turah, his father, and Lut, the son of Haran, and all belonging to him, dwelt in Haran. Verse 11. In the 5th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, the people of Sodom and Amorah, and all the cities of the circle of the Jordan, revolted from the power of Kedorlaomer, sovereign of Elam. For all the sovereigns of the cities of the circle of the Jordan had served Kedorlaomer for 12 years. and given him a yearly tax. But in those days, in the 15th year, in the 13th year, they rebelled against him. Indeed, 13 is the number of rebellion. 13 is the number of rebellion. This is why the rebellious one, the lawless one, Namrud, is the 13th from Adam. He is the 13th from Adam. Verse 12. And in the 10th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, there was war between Namrud, sovereign of Shinar, and Kedorlaomer, sovereign of Alahym. And Namrud came to fight with Kedorlaomer and to subdue him. For Kedorlaomer was at that time one of the princes of the host of Namrud. And when all the people of the tower were dispersed, and those that remained were also scattered upon the face of the earth, Kedorlaomer went to the land of Alahym and reigned over it and rebelled against his master. And in those days when Namrud saw that the cities of the circle of the Jordan had rebelled, he came with pride and anger to war with Kedorlaomer. And Namrud assembled all his princes and subjects, about 700,000 men, and went against Kedorlaomer. And Kedorlaomer went out to meet him with 5,000 men. With 5,000 men. Wow. And they prepared for battle in the valley of Babal, which is between Alahym and Shinar. Verse 15. And all those sovereigns fought there, and Namrud and his people were smitten before the people of Kedorlaomer, and there fell from Namrud's men about 600,000, and Madum, the sovereign son, fell amongst them. And Namrud fled and returned in shame and disgrace to his land, and he was under subjection to Kedorlaomer for a long time. And Kedorlaomer returned to his land and sent princes of his host, of the sovereigns that dwelt around him, to Aruch, Malach of Alakah, and to Tidal, sovereign of the nations, and to Tidal, sovereign of nations, and cut a covenant with them, and they were all obedient to his commands. And it was in the 15th year of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, which is the 70th year of the life of Abram. And Yahuwah appeared to Abram in that year, and he said to him, indeed, here we have another characteristic again. He appears to those. He makes himself known to those who are walking the ancient path, to those who are giving effort to show him that they love him, to cling closely to him, to walk the ancient path. He appears to them. He makes himself known to them. He says here, I am Yahuwah who brought you out from Kasdiim to give you this land for an inheritance. Now therefore, walk before me. Walk before me. Yalak, the Abarit word is Yalak. Walk before me. Walk where? Walk the ancient path. Walk the ancient path. Now therefore, walk before me and be perfect. And be perfect. Walk before me and be perfect. What does this mean? This means to walk the ancient path and turn neither to the right or to the left of it. Yes, it does. This means to walk the ancient path in obedience to Torah, in obedience to the Ancient of Days. Indeed, in the 5th chapter of Matat Yahu, Yahusha says this. He says, be perfect, be ye perfect, as your Father is perfect. Before this, I believe he says that unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees, that you shall by no means enter into the reign of Shamayim. In other words, unless your adherence to Torah, unless your adherence to walking the ancient path exceeds that of the Pharisees, you will by no means enter into the reign of Shamayim. This is what it means to be perfect, to walk the ancient path without turning to the right or to the left of it. Reading again here. Now therefore walk before me, walk the ancient path, and be perfect, and guard my commands. For to you and to your seed I will give this land for an inheritance, from the river Mizraim unto the great river Parat. And you shall come to your fathers in shalom, and in good age, And the fourth generation shall return here in this land and shall inherit it forever. Indeed, those who walk the ancient path have an inheritance attached to us. We have an inheritance attached to us. And Abram built an altar. Here's another, he's repeating this characteristic again. We're worshipers. We're worshipers. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. Those who walk in the ancient path are worshipers. And Abram built an altar. Here's another characteristic. And he did what? And he called upon the name of Yahuwah. I don't care. I cannot be moved. This is his name. This is the eternal name of the Ancient of Days. And he has confirmed it to us. He has proven it to us. This is his name. Yahweh is not his name. Yahweh is not his name. Yehovah is not his name. Yahuwah is not his name. Yehovah is not his name. It's not his name. It's not his name. Ahayah is not his name. His name is Yahuwah. His name is Yahuwah. And so those who are truly walking the ancient path, they call upon the name of the Ancient of Days, which has never changed, which is Yahuwah. Yahuwah. And Abram built an altar, and he called upon the name of Yahuwah, who appeared to him. And he brought up sacrifices upon the altar to Yahuwah. Now, this may rub some people wrong. That's not my problem. It truly isn't. It truly isn't. It isn't my problem. We're now in a time of separation. This is a time of separation and preparation. And I don't have time to play footsies with people. That's not my problem. His name is Yahuwah. His name is Yahuwah. To those who have ears to hear, his name is Yahuwah. And those who are walking the ancient path call upon the name of the Ancient of Days. His name is Yahuwah. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. At that time, Abram returned and went to Haran to see his father and mother and his father's household. Here's another characteristic of one who is walking the ancient path. What does he do? He or she do. They honor their father and their mother. They honor their father and their mother. We saw that Abram in the previous chapter honored his father so much, and even after his father turned him over to Namrud, to be burned in the fire. He turned his own son over. Not only him, but he turned his son Haran over, and Haran died in the fire. But irrespective of this, we find Abram still honoring his father. Here is another characteristic of someone walking the ancient path. They honor their father and their mother. Indeed, Paul says that this is what? The first command with promise. The first command with promise. At that time, Abram returned and went to Haran to see his father and mother and his father's household. And Abram and his woman and all belonging to him returned to Haran, and Abram dwelt in Haran 5 years. And many of the people of Haran, about 72 men, followed Abram. Indeed, if we are truly walking the ancient path, there are people who are going to be attracted to us as moths are drawn to candles. They're going to be attracted to the light. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're going to be attracted to the light of Torah. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Like moths are drawn to candles. So here is another characteristic. And many of the people of Haran, about 72 men, followed Abram. And Abram did what? Here's another characteristic. Taught them the instruction of Yahuwah and his ways. Taught them the ancient path. Taught them the ancient path. Indeed, Abba has already told us. But before we can teach the ancient path, we've got to learn the ancient path. And we too have got to be walking the ancient path before we can teach them. Otherwise, we're hypocrites. And otherwise, we're novice. And otherwise, we are endangering them because we don't know what we're talking about. We have to first be taught by Yahuwah. We have to first be taught the ancient ways, the ancient path. And we must first get that bright nature of Yahuwah upon us so that they are drawn to this light before we can go and teach them. Before we can go and teach them. Indeed, I say again, this is a season of preparation and separation. And he taught them to know Yahuwah. And he taught them to know Yahuwah. And he taught them to know Yahuwah. Somebody please turn for me really quickly to 1 John, the 2nd chapter. And I think I want you to read verses 1 through 4. Someone real quickly turn to 1 John, the 2nd chapter. And I want you to read verses 1 through 4. And he taught them to know Yahuwah. Come on, somebody. Get that for me. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. 1 John, the 2nd chapter, verse 1 through 4.
My little children, I write this to you so that you do not crime. And if anyone commits crime, we have an intercessor with the Father, Yahushua HaMashiach, a righteous one. And he himself is an atoning offering for our crimes, and not for ours only, but also for all the world. And by this we know that we know him, if we guard his commands.
Say it again.
And by this we know that we know him, if we guard his commands.
Come on.
The one who says, I know him, and does not guard his commands,
is what?
Is a liar.
Is a what?
Is a liar.
Did you call him a liar?
Nope.
Who called him a liar?
Yahuwah.
Barak Yahuwah. That means they're a liar. Come on.
And the truth is not in him.
The truth, the Torah is not in them. Barak Yahuwah. Barak Yahuwah. So he taught them Torah. He taught them the ancient path. He taught them to know the living Torah. You can't know the living Torah unless you obey Torah, unless you know Torah. If you don't know Torah, you don't know him. So he taught them Torah. He taught them the ancient path. He taught them the way to everlasting life. And he taught them to know Yahuwah. This is another characteristic of them who follow the ancient path. In those days, Yahuwah appeared to Abram in Haran. Again, he loved to appear to Abram. Yes, he does. He loves to make himself known to those who walk the ancient path. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Oh, he loves to make himself known to those who walk the ancient path. Yes, he does. Try him and see. Oh, taste and see that Yahuwah is good. Try him. Try him. Walk the ancient path and see if he won't make himself known to you. Yes, he will. Yes, he will. In those days, Yahuwah appeared to Abram in Haran. And he said to him, Behold, I've spoken to you these 20 years back, saying, Go forth from your land, from your birthplace, and from your father's house, to the land which I have shown you to give it to you and to your children. For there in that land will I barak you, and make you a great nation, and make your name great. And in you shall the families of the Yahuwah's be Baruch. Now therefore arise, go forth from this place, you and your woman, and all belonging to you. Also everyone born in your house, and all the souls you have made in Haran, and bring them out with you from there, and rise to return to the land of Canaan. What did Abram do? In verse 25, he obeyed. Another characteristic, we've talked about this further up. We're just repeating this characteristic, obedience. Obedience. Obedience and walking the ancient path is synonymous. You can't walk the ancient path without obeying. That's an oxymoron. That is an oxymoron. You cannot walk the ancient path without obeying. Obedience and walking the ancient path is synonymous. And Abram arose and took his woman, Sarai, and all belonging to him, and all that were born to him in his house, and the souls which they had made in Haran, and they came out to go to the land of Canaan. And Abram went and returned to the land of Canaan, according to what? According to the Torah of Yahuwah. According to the Torah of Yahuwah. The word is Torah. According to the Torah of Yahuwah, he obeyed. He walked the ancient path without turning to the right or to the left. He obeyed and walked the ancient path. And Lut, the son of his brother Haran, went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he went forth from Haran to return to the land of Canaan. And he came to the land of Canaan according to the Torah of Yahuwah to Abram. Torah means instruction. Torah means instruction. And so, and he came to the land of Canaan according to what? To the instruction of Yahuwah to Abram. To the Torah, according to the Torah of Yahuwah to Abram. He walked the ancient path. He obeyed without turning to the right or to the left. This is another characteristic. And he pitched his tent, and he dwelt in the plain of Mamre. And with him was Lut his brother's son, and all belonging to him. And Yahuwah again appeared. Here he is again appearing to Abram. He loves to make himself known to those who walk the ancient path. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And Yahuwah again appeared to Abram and said, to your seed will I give this land. And he there did what? He built an altar. What does that mean? He worshiped him. He worshiped him. Here's that characteristic mentioned again. Those who walk the ancient path are worshipers. We worship him. No one has to force us to worship Alahym. No one has to force us to worship our Alahym, to worship Yahuwah. No one has to do this. We're worshipers. We worship him. We worship him. As in Shamayim, as it is on earth. As they worship him in Shamayim, we worship him on earth. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. This is another characteristic. We worship him. And he there built an altar to Yahuwah, who appeared to him, which is still to this day in the plains of Mamre. Turn now to chapter 14 as we continue this journey, looking at our father Abram. Looking at our righteous father Abram. Chapter 14 of Yashar, beginning at verse 1. In those days there was in the land of Shinar a Kakam man who had understanding in all Kakma and of a beautiful appearance. But he was poor and indigent. His name was Rikayum, and he was hard set to support himself. And he resolved to go to Mashraim, to Ashris. Actually, I'm going to skip this. You can go back and read this. What we're going to learn, what you're going to learn here, if you've not already read it, is that he was the first pharaoh of Egypt. And it's a very interesting story how that happened. But we're talking about Abram. We're looking at Abram. So we're not going to talk about Rikayum tonight. If you want to read about him, you can go back and read this story. So I'm going to skip. I'm actually going to skip chapter 14 entirely and go to chapter 15. Beginning at verse 1. And in that year there was a heavy famine throughout the land of Canaan, and the inhabitants of the land could not remain on account of the famine, for it was very grievous. And Abram and all belonging to him rose and went down to Mashraim on account of the famine. And when they were at the brook Mashraim, they remained there some time to rest from the fatigue of the road. Here's another characteristic. Why did he go to Mashraim? Because there was a famine in the land. He was led to Mashraim. He was led there because there was food there. Were not there 70 beings a few hundred years later that were also led down to Mashraim, who were his seed, to save their lives? Oh yes, the favor of Yahuwah and the provision of Yahuwah rest upon them who walk the ancient path. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. They will lack no good thing. No, they won't. No, they won't. They will lack no good thing. Those who truly walk the ancient path in Ruach and in truth. Verse 2. And Abram and all belonging to him rose and went down to Mashraim on account of the famine. And when they were at the brook Mashraim, they remained there some time to rest from the fatigue of the road. And Abram and Sarai were walking at the border of the brook Mashraim. And Abram beheld this woman, Sarai, that she was very beautiful. And Abram said to his woman Sarai, since Alahym has created you with such beautiful countenance, I am afraid of the Mashrai, lest they should slay me and take you away, for the fear of Alahym is not in these places. Now here is another example, not a characteristic, but another example of that even when we're walking the ancient path, that does not mean that sometimes we're going to fall prey and fall victim to our flesh. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. This is why Shaul declares, so now walk in the Ruach, so that you do not fulfill the desires of your flesh. Walk in the Ruach, so that you do not deny, so that you do not fulfill the desires of your flesh. It is possible, even for someone walking the ancient path, to fall victim of the flesh. Did not all Yahoo do the same? When Jezebel threatened him, did not he run? Did not this powerful man of Yahuwah run from this witch? Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And you better believe that he walked the ancient path. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. So it is possible. And so this is why we must be on guard to always walk in the Ruach, so that we do not fulfill the desires of our flesh. So that there are other things that we can also learn from our righteous fathers. We not only learn from them how to walk the ancient path, but we can also learn from them that we are to always walk by the Ruach, so that we do not fulfill the desires of our flesh. Barak Yahuwah. Verse 4. And Abram said to his woman Sarai, since Alahym has created you with such beautiful countenance, I am afraid of the Mashra'i, lest they should slay me and take you away, for the fear of Alahym is not in these places. The reverence of Alahym is not in these places. Surely then you shall do this. Say you are my sister, to all that may ask you, in order that it may be well with me, and that we may live and not be put to death. And Abram commanded the same to all those that came with him to Mashraim on account of the famine. Also his nephew Lut he commanded, saying, if the Mishraim ask you concerning Sarai, say she is the sister of Abram. And yet, with all these orders, Abram did not put confidence in them, but he took Sarai and placed her in a chest and concealed it amongst their vessels. For Abram was greatly concerned about Sarai on account of the wickedness of the Mashra'i. And Abram and all belonging to him rose up from the brook Mashraim and came to Mashraim. And they had scarcely entered the gates of the city when the guard stood up to them, saying, give tithe to the sovereign from what you have, and then you may come into the town. And Abram and those that were with him did so. And Abram with the people that were with him came to Mashraim. And when they came, they brought the chest in which Sarai was concealed. And the Mashra'i saw the chest. And the sovereign servants approached Abram, saying, what have you here in this chest, which we have not seen? Now open you the chest and give tithe to the sovereign of all that it contains. And Abram said, this chest I will not open, but all you demand upon it I will give. And Parah's officers answered Abram, saying, it is a chest of precious stones. Give us the tenth thereof. Abram said, all that you desire I will give, but you must not open the chest. And the sovereign's officers pressed Abram, and they reached the chest and opened it with force. And they saw, and behold, a beautiful woman was in the chest. And when the officers of the sovereign beheld Sarai, they were struck with admiration at her beauty. And all the princes and servants of Parah assembled to see Sarai, for she was very beautiful. And the sovereign's officers ran and told Parah all that they had seen. And they praised Sarai to the Malak, to the sovereign. And Parah ordered her to be brought. And the woman came before the sovereign. And Parah beheld Sarai, and she pleased him exceedingly. And he was struck with her beauty. And the sovereign rejoiced greatly on her account, and made presents to those who brought him the tidings concerning her. And the woman was then brought to Parah's house. And Abram grieved on account of his woman. And he prayed to Alahym to deliver her from the hands of Parah. And Sarai also prayed at that time and said, O Yahuwah, Alahym, you did tell my master Abram to go from his land and from his father's house to the land of Canaan. And you did promise to do well with him if he would perform your commands. Now behold, You have done that which you did command us. And we left our land and our families, and we went to a strange land and to a people whom we have not known before. And we came to this land to avoid the famine, and this evil accident has befallen me. Now therefore, O Yahuwah Alahym, deliver us and save us from the hand of this oppressor, and do well with me for the sake of your compassion. What does it say here? And Yahuwah hearkened to the voice of Sarai, and Yahuwah sent a messenger to deliver Sarai from the power of Parah. Those who walk the ancient path, he does what? He hears them. Does it not say that in the book of 1 John, I believe it's the 5th chapter, that if we send up supplications to Yahuwah, then he hears us. And if he hears our supplications, he is quick to grant that which we are supplicating him for. Now, this is a paraphrase, but that's what it says. That's what it says. He hears and he answers the prayers of those who are walking the ancient path. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He is quick to hear and quick to answer the prayers of those who are walking the ancient path. Does it not say that those who do not give ear to the ancient path, who do not give ear to the Torah, even their prayers is an abomination? It says it. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And so he is quick to hear those who are walking the ancient path. He is quick to hear and quick to answer those who are walking the ancient path. We see another example here with Sarai. With Sarai, of a woman who was walking the ancient path. What is she? She is submissive. She has a meek and quiet spirit. She obeys her husband. She calls him master. And one other thing she does, she also prays. She also prays. She prays for her husband. She prays for her household. Yes, she does. Yes, she does. This is another characteristic. This is a characteristic of a woman who is walking the ancient path. And Yahuwah hearkened to the voice of Sarai, and Yahuwah sent a messenger to deliver Sarai from the power of Parah. And the sovereign came and sat before Sarai, and behold, a messenger of Yahuwah. Just let me touch just a little bit more about Sarai. With respect to the ancient path, this ancient path goes all the way back to Genesis 3:16 with respect to women. And because of the fall, in pain you shall bear children, and your desire shall be for your husband, and he does rule over you. And he does rule over you. And so we see a perfect example of this, and Sarai submitting to her husband, calling him master, going into the chest as he told her. I can imagine some women, some feminist women during this season who would give their husbands some very choice words about getting into a chest. Many of them would be worried about their hair falling and their hair not looking right and sweating inside of that chest, and giving their husband lip service instead of submitting to him and obeying him. Oh, I could see it. I could see it. Yes, I could. Yes, I can. But Sarai, being a daughter of Yahuwah, being a daughter of Zion, having a meek and quiet spirit, and submitting to her husband, went into the chest in obedience to him. And we also see her praying to Yahuwah, and Yahuwah answering her. Why did he answer her? Because she was walking the ancient path. She was walking in obedience to the ancient path, and she was submissive to her husband. She was submissive to him. Verse 20. And the sovereign came and sat before Sarai, and behold, a messenger of Yahuwah was standing over them. And he appeared to Sarai and said to her, do not fear, for Yahuwah has heard your prayer. For Yahuwah has heard your prayer. Indeed, for those who walk in the ancient path, there's what? There is protection. Not only does he hear and answer their prayers, but there is protection. Does the word not say that the messengers of Yahuwah encamp around them who reverence him? It says it. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. What does reverence mean? Reverence means to submit. Reverence means to worship. Reverence means to obey. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. You cannot walk the ancient path without reverencing Yahuwah. Reverence and the ancient path to is synonymous. It is synonymous. And so the messengers of Yahuwah encamp around them who reverence him. Yes, they do. This is the text. I believe the text. You don't have to believe the text. I believe it. I believe the messengers of Yahuwah encamp around them who reverence him, who walk the ancient path. And so it reads here, and the sovereign came and sat before Sarai, and behold, a messenger of Yahuwah was standing over them. And he appeared to Sarai and said to her, do not fear, for Yahuwah has heard your prayer. And the sovereign approached Sarai and said to her, what is that man to you who brought you hither? And she said, he is my brother. He is my brother. Here now, another example of a woman, of an Aisha, operating and walking in the ancient path. She is what? She is obedient to her husband, to her master. Her master told her to tell him that that he is her brother. He told her. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And in obedience to her master, she obeyed. And she gave the answer that he is my brother. That he is my brother. Despite seeing the messenger there to protect her, she was still obedient to her master, because the head of woman is her husband and the head of man is the Mashiach. And she obeyed her master. She obeyed her master. This is another characteristic of a woman walking the ancient path. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Verse 22. And the sovereign said, it is incumbent upon us to make him great, to elevate him, and to do unto him all the good which you shall command us. And at that time the sovereign sent to Abram, listen, silver and gold and precious stones in abundance, together with cattle, men servants and maid servants. And the sovereign ordered Abram to be brought, and he sat in the court of the sovereign's house. And the sovereign greatly exalted Abram on that night. Does it not say that the wealth of the wicked, that the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And so those who walk in the ancient path, indeed, the favor of Yahuwah and the provision of Yahuwah rest on them. If you don't believe it, I'm not some Christian preacher preaching some prosperity gospel, but there is something that's getting ready to break loose in this season. If you have the belief to believe. If you have the belief to believe, there is something that is getting ready to break loose in this season. Indeed, the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. The favor and the provision of Yahuwah rest upon those who will walk in the ancient path. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And the sovereign approached to speak to Sarai. And he reached out his hand to touch her when the messenger smote him heavily. And he was terrified. And he refrained from reaching to her. That's funny to me. I'm sorry. That's funny. We all know what the Parah had on his mind. We know what he had on his mind. He was a nasty man. We know what he had on his mind. But the messenger reached forth and smote him. And smote him. So here is another example. The protection of Yahuwah rests upon those who are walking the ancient path. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. The protection of Yahuwah rests upon those who are walking the ancient path. Yes, it does. We just read this past Shabbat how Abram walked in the midst of the fire for 3 days and 3 nights. The protection of those walking the ancient path, the protection of Yahuwah rests upon those who are walking the ancient path. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And when the sovereign came near to Sarai, the messenger smote him to the ground and acted thus to him the whole night. And the sovereign was terrified. Oh, he was full of lust. The Sarai was a beautiful woman, and he was not to be deterred. And the more he came near, the more that messenger smote his behind. Yes, he did. Verse 25. And the messenger on that night smote heavily all the servants of the sovereign and his whole household on account of Sarai. And there was a great lamentation at night amongst the people of Parah's house. Is it not written? Is it not written through the mouth of the Nabi, where he rebuked sovereigns for our ancestors' sake? Yes, it is. Saying, touch not my Nabi, saying, touch my anointed, and do my Nabi no harm. Is that not written? Do you think that that's not still applicable to us? The protection of Yahuwah is upon those who walk this ancient path. Yes, it is. Try him and see. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And the messenger that night smote heavily all the servants of the sovereign, and his whole household on account of Sarai. And there was great lamentation that night amongst the people of Parah's house. And Parah, seeing the evil that befell him, said, surely on account of this woman has this thing happened to me. And he removed himself at some distance from her and spoke pleasing words to her. And the Malak said to Sarai, tell me, I pray, you concerning the man with whom you came here. And Sarai said, this man is my man, is my Aish. And I said to you that he was my brother, for I was afraid lest you should put him to death through wickedness. And the sovereign kept away from Sarai, and the plagues of the messenger of Yahuwah ceased from him and his household. And Parah knew that he was smitten on account of Sarai, and the sovereign was greatly astonished at this. And in the morning the sovereign called for Abram and said to him, what is this you have done to me? Why did you say, she is my sister? Owing to which I took her unto me to be my woman, and this heavy plague has therefore come upon me and my household. Now therefore here is your woman. Take her and go from our land, lest we all die on her account. Parah took more cattle, men servants, and maid servants, and silver and gold to give to Abram, and he returned unto him Sarai his woman. Indeed, this was a foreshadowing of the seed of Abram coming out from Mizraim with great riches. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Coming out from Mizraim with great riches. Indeed, the wealth of the wicked is stored up for the righteous. And so there is favor. The favor of Yahuwah rest upon them. Rest upon them who are walking this ancient path. Rest upon them who are walking this ancient path. And the sovereign took a maiden whom he begot by his concubines, and he gave her to Sarai for his handmaid. And we know that this is Hagar. This is Hagar. This is the one whom Abram eventually wed, and through whom was produced Ishmael. This was Parah's daughter. Hagar was actually a daughter of Parah. And the sovereign took a maiden whom he begot by his concubine, and he gave her to Sarai for a handmaid. And the sovereign said to his daughter, it is better for you, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this man's house than to be mistress in my house, after we have beheld the evil that befell us on account of this woman. And the sovereign said to his daughter, it is better for you, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this man's house than to be a mistress in my house, after we have beheld the evil that befell us on account of this woman. Someone turn real quickly to Yeshayahu, or Isaiah chapter 14, and begin reading at verse 1, and I'll tell you when to stop. Yeshayahu, Isaiah chapter 14, and begin reading at verse 1, and I'll tell you when to stop. With keeping this in mind, verse 32. And the sovereign said to his daughter, it is better for you, my daughter, to be a handmaid in this man's house than to be mistress in my house, after we have beheld the evil that befell us on account of this woman. Somebody read that for me. Isaiah the 14th chapter, beginning at verse 1. Start at verse 1, and I'll tell you when to stop.
For Yahuwah will have favor on Yaakov, and yet choose Yasharal and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Yahuwah. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Yasharal shall possess them in the land of Yahuwah for servants and handmaids.
Servants and handmaids. You can, Barak Yahuwah. You can stop there. So it's better, this is a foreshadow. It's better for the nations to be handmaids and servants in the house of the seed of Abraham than to stay in Mashraim. Indeed, some are going to be servants. Somebody read. Actually, you don't have to read it, but you can keep in mind Matthew chapter 5, beginning at verse 17 through 19, where it says, those who keep the Torah, who keep the ancient path, who walk the ancient path, and teach others the ancient path, like our ancient fathers, will be what? Will be called great in the reign of the Shamayim. But for those who do not walk the ancient path, actually I think it says for those who disobey the least of the ancient path, indeed they are turning to the right or to the left, who disregard the least of the ancient path and teach others to disregard the ancient path, they will be called least in the reign of Shamayim. So it's better to be a handmaid in the house of Abram, in the reign of Shamayim, than to be in the fires, of Mashraim. Yes, it is. Because to be a handmaid in Abram's house, in the reign of the Shamayim, is far different than being a servant or a handmaid in the house of the wicked. It's far different. We don't harshly treat, our people don't harshly treat servants and handmaids. We don't harshly treat them. That's not the way. That's not the ancient path. It's not the ancient path. Barak Yahuwah. Verse 32. And the sovereign said to his daughter, it is better for you, my daughter. Actually, I already read that. Verse 33. And Abram arose, and he and all belonging to him went away from Mashraim, and Par ordered some of his men to accompany him, and all that went with him. And Abram returned to the land of Canaan, to the place where he had made the altar, where he at first had pitched his tent. And Lut the son of Haran, Abram's brother, had a heavy stock of cattle, flocks and herds and tents, for Yahuwah was bountiful to them on account of Abram. Now, here's another characteristic. Yahuwah will barak those who are near us for our sake, if we are walking the ancient path. He will barak those who are near us for our sake, if we are walking the ancient path, and the favor of Yahuwah rest upon us. Yes, he will. And Lut the son of Haran, Abram's brother, had a heavy stock of cattle, flocks and herds, and tents, for Yahuwah was bountiful to them on account of Abram. And when Abram was dwelling in the land, the herdsmen of Lut quarreled with the herdsmen of Abram, for their property was too great for them to remain together in the land, and the land could not bear them on account of their cattle. And when Abram's herdsmen went to feed their flock, they would not go into the fields of the people of the land, but the cattle of Lut's herdsmen did otherwise, for they were suffered to feed in the fields of the people of the land. And the people of the land saw this occurrence daily, and they came to Abram and quarreled with him on account of Lut's herdsmen. Now here's another characteristic. Lut's herdsmen, they went in the field of the people of the land, but Abram's herdsmen kept his herd from doing so. Here is another characteristic. The one who is walking the ancient path does what? Is upright before Yahuwah and men. It's upright before Yahuwah and men. And the people of the land saw this occurrence daily, and they came to Abram and quarreled with him on account of Lut's herdsmen. And Abram said to Lut, what is this you are doing to me, to make me despicable to the inhabitants of the land, that you order your herdsmen to feed your cattle in the fields of other people? Do you not know that I am a stranger in this land and amongst the children of Canaan? And why will you do this unto me? And Abram quarreled daily with Lut on account of this, but Lut would not listen to Abram. And he continued to do the same, and the inhabitants of the land came and told Abram. And Abram said unto Lut, How long will you be to me for a stumbling block with the inhabitants of the land? Now, I beseech you, let there be no more quarreling between us, for we are kinsmen. For we are kinsmen. Now, here's another characteristic of someone walking the ancient path. One walking the ancient path is a man of shalom. Is a man or woman of shalom. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Someone walking the ancient path is a man of shalom, one able to settle quarreling. A soft answer turns away wrath. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. One able to deal with quarreling with right ruling. With right ruling. In a Ruach of shalom. In a Ruach of shalom. So someone walking the ancient path is one who is walking in shalom, who operates in shalom. Yes, it is. It reads here again, now I beseech you, let there be no more quarreling between us, for we are kinsmen. But I pray you, separate from me. Go and choose a place where you may dwell with your cattle, all belonging to you. But keep yourself at a distance from me, you and your household. And be not afraid in going from me. For if anyone do an injury to you, let me know, and I will avenge your cause from him. Only remove from me. And when Abram had spoken all these words to Lut, then Lut arose and lifted up his eyes toward the plain of the Jordan. And he saw that the whole of this place was well watered and good for man, as well as affording pasture for the cattle. And Lut went from Abram to the place, and Lut went from Abram to that place, and he there pitched his tent and dwelt in Sodom, and they were separated from each other. And Abram dwelt in the plain of Mamre, which is Cabron, and he pitched his tent there. And Abram remained in that place for many years. And Abram remained in that place for many years. We're going to stop right here for tonight, Mashpaka. As I said earlier, this is going to be a long journey. This is going to be a long journey that perhaps will take us right up to the door of Sukkot, because it's a very important journey. It's very important that we get this down, that we understand the ancient path, and that we begin to align ourselves with it. That we begin to align ourselves with the ancient path. And so it's going to be a very extensive journey, and I believe Abba wants me to take my time with it. He doesn't want me to rush it, because this is very important. This has to be a way of life for us. This has to be a way of life. And if we walk this ancient path, as we're reading, and as we're going to continue to read, there's going to be some characteristics that should be manifesting. And if we walk this ancient path, Yahuwah himself will walk with us. He will walk with us every step of the way. He would not leave us, and he would not forsake those who would aspire to walk this ancient path without turning to the right or to the left. So, Abba, we thank you for this ancient path that you are revealing to us. We thank you, Abba, for this very important teaching that you have unveiled for us during this Mu'at time, during this appointed time. It is an appointed season, and this is an appointed teaching for your people in order to align us, better align us, and more closely align us with the ancient path, in order to better align us and closely align us with the truth. I pray, Abba, that your children, that your people are paying attention, that your people are taking this to heart, and that they're understanding how narrow this path is, and that they're understanding that the longer we walk this path, the narrower it's going to get, and the more is going to be expected of us. And so even this night, Abba, I pray that not one single seed of this word was cast by the wayside, so that the birds, so that the devils and demons would come and pick that word as soon as it was scattered. I pray that no seed was scattered on shallow ground. I pray that no seed was scattered amongst thorns. But I pray that this seed was scattered on fertile soil, as you have continued to teach us the ancient path. I pray that this seed was scattered on fertile soil, that you would then send forth your Ruach, sometime soon, that you would send forth your Ruach, the living water of your Ruach, to water this seed, so that it grows up into a mighty tree, producing the fruit that leads to everlasting life. Let the words that have been spoken via the mouth of your servant, let not one word fall to the ground void, but let it go forth and accomplish that which it has been sent forth to do. In the Basham of Yahushua HaMashiach, so be it, so be it, so be it.
So be it.